You can read it in the book. So firstly, why is there a need for a second edition? Well, when QCEE decided to revise the 2019 suite of syllabuses, our business teachers out there provided us with extremely valuable feedback. So thank you so much for all of that. And this included some feedback about our syllabus objectives, and the consensus was that there needed to be changes there. So with this syllabus objectives, we've reduced those to 5. They have been revised and reworded. So that meant that for our textbooks, we needed to also do that with gaining insight questions, the chapter reviews, and the case studies so that we could align those to the 25 syllabus. The subject matter was also reduced and realigned and rearranged. For example, management styles was in Unit 1, Topic 1, and that's now moved to Unit 4, Topic 2. So that meant the subject matter was in the wrong textbook. So we also had to do some realignment there. There was changes in the objectives and the subject matter that impacted on the assessment. And so therefore we had to update all our case studies and our gaining insights to reflect these changes. And lastly, there was definitely some reduction and rearrangement with our analytical tools, and thank you to the business teachers for that feedback as well. So that prompted us to look at our edition and say, well, yes, we do need a second edition so that it does align to the 2025 Business General Senior Syllabus. So let me just go through some of these revisions. Thanks, Mel. Next slide. Thank you. So with the syllabus objectives, what's happened there is that now they've been revised and reduced in size, reworded, and so that all the describing questions that were in the textbook have now been changed to focus on just business situations and environments. The explain only assesses concepts and strategies, so processes have been removed. We saw the amalgamation of analysing and synthesising, so all the questions had to be changed to reflect that. Evaluating now only focuses on business strategies, and now we only have the 3 genres in business: a business report extract, a business report, and a feasibility. So we had to have a look at this syllabus and revise it so that it did align, and especially with our assessment instruments. So I'm just going to run through each of the 3 internal assessment instruments to show you how the book has changed. The first one is our IA1. So the revised specifications in the 2025 syllabus now state that it only has to be 1 authentic business case study. Use one analytical tool, have 3 to 5 short response questions, and include 1 extended response presented as a business report extract. So when we look at Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, which align to this unit, Unit 3, Topic 2, you can see that the revised syllabus now provides the revised syllabus now provides us with really greater flexibility in selecting the focus of the IA1. So the subject matter for Unit 3, Topic 1 could focus on domestic or global expansion, or HR, or finance, or you could do a combination of these. So Chapter 3 in our textbook provides lots of case studies on domestic and global expansion, and these could be used to prepare your students for IA1. You could use these as a guide to writing your IA1 as well, but remember you can't use any information or text that students have been exposed to directly in class, but you could use these case studies as starting points. And Chapter 4 has got some example of case studies on HR and finance. The case study 1 that's at the end of those 2 chapters is on ego pharmaceuticals, and this provides that in-depth case study for Unit 3, Topic 1. So why not use this as your practice example for IA1? The questions have been written to align to the revised 25 syllabus, and the data and information for this case study have been updated. Thanks, Mel. The analytical tools, that's it. The second edition also has the analytical tools to align to that unit topic in the syllabus. And Amy's going to talk more about that later in this presentation. The chapter review questions have all been revised so that they align to the 25 syllabus, and you'll notice that the questions have the cognition highlighted, so students are aware what assessment objective is being assessed. For IA2, the specifications have changed as well. Now it's 1 authentic business case study, 1 analytical tool. The focus can be on marketing or operational strategy, and it is presented as a business report. The assessment is based on Unit 3, Topic 2, where students investigate a problem a business is facing in a hostile competitive environment. So look at how many case studies are in the textbook under Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, which you can use to prepare students for their investigation reports. So Chapter 5 is all about those hostile environments, and Chapter 6 looks at the marketing and operations. So your assessment can focus on either marketing or operations, or you can even let your students choose which one to focus on. As I said before, the analytical tools have been included in these chapters as well, so that students can refer to them when they are completing their assessment. The case study in this section, case study 2, is on Brook Farm, and it provides an excellent example of a case study that could be used to help prepare students to complete their IA2. For the revised IA3, the specifications in the 25 syllabus state that it needs to be 1 authentic business, 1 analytical tool, up to 8 A4 pages of stimulus, and be presented as a feasibility report. Again, the analytical tools that relate to this have been included in the chapter so that the students can refer to them. And Amy's going to talk about that soon. So this assessment is based on Unit 4, Topic 1, where students are provided with an authentic case study, and they have to assess potential solutions to a problem or opportunity about repositioning and determine its viability. So again, look at how many case studies you can use to prepare students for their feasibility report. So you can use these as a guide to creating your IA3. So, for example, I can see that under Chapter 7, Red Rooster is included there. Well, KFC would be another business that would be suitable for this assessment. So if you have a look at what's in the book on Red Rooster, maybe you could use that as inspiration for writing an IA3 on KFC. And the case study 3 for repositioning a business is on Tupperware. And again, this is an excellent example of how it could be used to prepare students to complete their IA3. So these are some of the changes that have happened in the syllabus and why we decided that as a team, we really did need a second edition to align to the Business 2025 syllabus. So now I'm going to hand it over to Amy to talk about those analytical tools.
Thanks, Bernie. Hi, everyone. As Bernie said, the analytical tools have been reduced and rearranged. We know from the 2019 version of the syllabus that we use the analytical tools to support that analyzed cognition. Oh, sorry, Mel, can you just go back one? When we were using these and learning and unpacking those, it's really about what we use the tools for in order to help students develop their skills in that analyze. What we've seen from what Bernie shared is that analyze and what we currently call synthesize are now combined together as analyze and interpret. So it becomes really important that students know how to utilize the tool so that they can show that analysis in the first part of the tool and then move into that interpret. So there are two skills now combined together in that. So it is really important that then with the reduction of those tools, that students are using the right tool in the right unit and for the right task. And so there has been a fair bit of shuffling around with which tool goes with which stage of the business life cycle or with which particular task. So what you'll see on the next slide is a comparison between what was in 2019 and what is now in the 2025 syllabus. You can see that the number of tools that students are required to be experts in has been reduced. Previously, we've had to use 2 tools in each task, and so we've seen lots of students referring to multiple analytical tools. We know that that's been a challenge when we look at the subject report for students and teachers to maintain the word count and to actually do the depth that's required. So you'll see from, and as Bernie explained, in the new syllabus, it is 1 tool. So for each of these units, you have the opportunity to select from one of those two tools that have been identified there. You'll also see that some of them have shuffled around. So notably that power interest grid that used to sit in Unit 3, Topic 2, now sits up in Unit 3, Topic 1. So we've had to rearrange and shuffle those case studies, change the way that the tools have been introduced, and help guide students in how to use them. So what you'll see in this new edition, and probably one of the most beneficial things that you can do with it in the classroom, is that modeling of how to do those tools. Mel, if you just go to the next slide for me, please. You'll see that there are more detailed examples of those particular tools. We have seen the feedback in the subject report that data and information is a bit of a sticking point. And we know at the ISMG that they must show both use of data and of information in all tools, in all tasks. So we've looked for ways to model that, and you'll see improved examples, for example, like a power interest grid here, where it's clearly identified that students are utilizing the data. There are examples of a SWOT tool that shows how to use both the data and the information in there as well. We've also looked at the ways that students can present their tools. And so we know there isn't just one way to present a tool, that a power interest grid obviously sits in a grid like this, but a SWOT perhaps could be in a grid or could be in prose. So there are examples of both in the new edition as well. So those case studies and the questions that relate to them have been updated, particularly when you look at where those tools have moved to. So there are no questions about a power interest grid in Topic 1 in the old edition. So in order to actually guide and teach students, you need to use those new case studies and those new questions that are in the second edition. Thanks, Mel. Further to that, we've seen lots and lots of questions being utilised around a SWOT. And so there is a shift there too where we're not utilising that in the way that we do things. So you'll see in Topic 1 in the old book, we've got lots of questions around that, around the steeple, and so moving and changing that. So again, the case studies and those things have been updated. Thanks, Mel. Can you please go to the next one too? So in there, as I mentioned, we do have lots of exemplars. You may not have had a chance to see the page proofs yet, and obviously once they come out, you get to see them. That has been something that we've worked on across a lot of the chapters. I know that there's been feedback and development of how tools work and people understanding the tools as we've worked through the 2019 version. Whilst we haven't added in any new tools, we've really refined the way that we utilize them. We've shown how to model that to students. And there's some really great exemplars that you can then draw on how to create each of these analytical tools. There are worked examples that show you how to include that data and information. And then again, those updated questions that really reflect that analyze as the first dot point, and then the interpret as the next 2 dot points in that ISMG. So I guess the key here is about how you're collapsing what you currently teach in analyze and synthesize into this one cognition, and how there are 2 parts to what we're teaching. And so this revised edition helps to model how to do that. And the questions have been updated to help coach that as well, so that the analytical tool is being done first, and that's that first part, and then the interpretation of that next. So I would really encourage you to have a look at the changes to those analytical tools, to have a look at what is in, particularly in Unit 3 and 4, where we've seen more shuffle. So in this particular update of the Blue Book as well, to see how that can apply to your teaching and learning as you move into Unit 3 later in the year. But obviously, if you have questions about those analytical tools, we will be able to answer those. But I'll hand over to Sally, who will now move into the next section. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. It's, I'd say, lovely to see you. Know that you're out there and listening. So I'm going to be looking at the case study development, and Bernie showed us earlier the extensive list of case studies across all of the topics. It's really important, I think, to note as well, where you see case studies that were in the first edition, that even those existing case studies have been updated. So the data and information has been updated. The questions, as was said, have been revised. So if there is one that you're like, oh, that was in the old edition, it's been updated in ways that may not initially be visible, but in really purposeful ways. That said, we've also got a variety of new and exciting businesses. Obviously, some evolve from, belonging in book 1 and 2, being in startup or growth, into that maturity, or shift across into that post-mature stage. So our case study businesses can be used out of sequence. I think, when we were all becoming comfortable in the first syllabus, some people taught from the start and went through to the end. You can move around between those case study businesses. They don't need to be used sequentially, and you can pick those case studies, obviously, that interest your specific cohort. You could develop additional questions that actually go with a case study. So in the example in front of you, it's the chapter opener for chapter 6, Kathmandu, and you can see in the question there that it includes a steeple analysis. However, there's nothing stopping you from actually using a USP instead. You don't necessarily have to stick with a steeple analysis there. You're exposing students to both of the tools that belong to that topic. You might look at them and think, that's a lot of questions. You can be discerning in that space, obviously, and just focus on specific questions. It might be that you really just want to focus on describing and evaluating, and so you focus in on those sections of the questions. So our case studies can also be used as a foundation for formative assessment, and I don't mean that in terms of how we know Unit 1 and 2 formative assessment to be. We're looking there here at helping students prepare for whether it's their IA1 or their EA. And if I take this one, our Gaining Insight 4.1 is our chapter opening case study, key case study for for Unit 3, Topic 1. If you're preparing students for the IA1 exam, you could use the Gaining Insights from chapter 3 and 4 as that strong basis to provide practice tasks for students, both for in-classroom work and also that you can set for home learning activities. So in this example, GI 4.1, there are questions that align with all of our assessment objectives, except for communicating. So you could ask the students to actually use questions 1 through 5 to actually create a response to suit audience, context, and purpose. So get them to create a business report extract. which is a really purposeful way to have students practicing those response to stimulus questions. And you can be doing that with a variety of the case study businesses. Continuing on with this idea that our case studies can be a foundation for formative assessment, some of our gaining insights present the opportunity for teachers to use the stimulus and create their own questions. So these case studies present an ideal opportunity for you to be able to craft cognition-specific learning activities or formative assessment tasks. So teachers can use either questions supplied, or you can write your own questions that align with the syllabus specifications. So in this example here, we've got our IA1 syllabus specifications there, and you might want to really hone in on that assessment objective 1, that describe, and you could actually get the students, have your students focus on describing facts and characteristics about Guzman and Gomez, or to describe using the stimulus, one internal and one macro environmental factor that related to floating on the stock exchange. So you are actually able to really focus in on specific cognition development using these GIs. Again, a really purposeful and practical way to practice writing responses to stimulus by focusing on one cognition at a time. And you could repeat that same process for analysing and evaluating. I know personally I do this in class where I might give them some time conditions and say, during a lesson you have 20 minutes to respond to the described questions so that they're actually practicing that time constraint as well. Another way we can look at using our case studies, again, is to create actual practice exams. So you don't actually need to spend your important budget buying practice exam papers when you can create your own to meet your own needs using using the textbook Gaining Insight case studies. For example, I just grabbed Walker Seafoods, which has been updated, to write a practice task that assesses objective 1, describing, and objective 4, evaluating. I've put some questions on the top, as you can see on the screen. I'd include the Gaining Insight from the textbook, and again, I would give them a time constraint. So I might fit this into a 50-minute lesson where I say, here's your case study, the stimulus, here are the questions, they're a good practice for your IA1, focusing on these assessment objectives, and these resources are already freely available in your textbook. We can also use our case studies as preparation for our external exam. We can give exposure for our students to the analytical tools at any time in the course. So as we know, our external exam analytical tools can be either a SWOT analysis or a force field analysis. So as per the syllabus, they are our tools, but why not introduce or expose students to our force field analysis sooner? More exposure to the tool gives students more confidence. So while this case study on P&O Australia is in our Unit 4 Topic 1, you could actually come back and use it to create a force field analysis and practice that. I know with my Year 12s, they're about to hand in IA3, and we're going to actually do a practice as an introduction to a force field analysis. So that could be a really good way to give some exposure to your students on that tool that they're not yet familiar with. So the Gaining Insight case studies across the book bring our subject matter to life in a really meaningful way, and you can use them to engage your students in learning in just so many different ways, not just following the linear front to back approach. And over to Mel.
over to me, the other Mel. Hi everyone, it's nice to see you, and I was scanning through the attendee list, and it's nice to see some familiar faces probably across all of us, so we really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I have a really fun part to talk about this afternoon, which is that we've listened to what you've asked for. So David and Amanda, who are on the call, constantly told us when we were chatting, the team, teachers really want solutions. So we've really heard you this time. And so our second editions, both book 1 and book 2, do come with solutions. Those solutions include all of your gaining insight activities, the end of topic case study solutions, and I did forget to put this on the slide, but of course the chapter review questions as well also have solutions. Thanks, Kerry. We love good feedback. It's a bit of a labour of love for each of us, but we all appreciate what we've done. We have written them, so they haven't been written by anybody else. And it's just important to know that they are offered exclusively to teachers that purchase class sets as part of Nelson MindTap, which I will take you through. Just a quick image you can see on the screen. Once you are set up, it's really nice and easy to put in your course key, set up your class, so on and so forth. So I'll send you a little bit of, tell you a little bit more about that on the next slide. Thanks, Mel. So we did take a really considered approach to our solutions, and they're really designed to complement your teaching. So when we ran this webinar last year for book 1, we were contemplating having solutions available to teachers and students, but the feedback from the attendees on the webinar, some of you here today, was that you would prefer to have that as a teacher so you can still control the dialogue in your classroom and make sure students are producing responses that is their own work. So they are restricted to teachers and you can use them how they like. They're supposed to offer clarity and consistency. So, you may want to answer a solution differently to us, and we totally appreciate and respect that, but it gives you guidance, it gives you something to base your ideas from, and even challenge or push your students further. So we do like to think that they can sort of enrich your classroom discussions and, open up different sort of pathways by giving you some additional resources to use. Thanks, Mel. Cool. So they're a flexible design. As I said, they're supposed to just give you a clear and consistent response to different activities. The couple of screenshots I'm showing you, by the way, are from our Orange Unit 1 book, because we have not long finalised solutions for book 2. So they will be coming and be well in time by when you need to implement. So just bear that in mind if you're having a look and going, I don't recognise that gaining insight. But yes, they can be very helpful. There's a sample there that you can see from chapter 10. If we've asked you to do a table or a diagram, we've produced a table or a diagram. So it's not all just prose. Some of it is bullet points. Some of the gaining insight questions that might ask you to debate as a class or go and investigate might say student results may vary, because you'll understand that. But for the majority of the case studies, there is a viable solution for you can look at. But to complement everything Sal just went through about how we want the book not just to be the textbook that you can use in its base form, but to use it to platform your planning and things like that. They can also help you with lots of other things you can do. So they might validate your own thinking on a particular topic or prompt discussions amongst your department about how you might approach a case study, or to Bernie's point, hey, that was a really cool case study. Maybe we can pivot to a different business and do something similar. We really encourage that. That was the whole point of the book, is to try and help you all. You could actually show students one of our solutions and ask them to critique it and analyse it. Is it good enough? Like, what would you add to it? What would enhance it? So you're more than welcome to do that if you like. You could even ask them to improve the responses, although I think we've done a pretty good job, but I do like to think that, it is a good reverse, learning activity that you could do. Sal mentioned it, you could turn a gaining insight into a practice assessment piece or build on it, or, build extension or scaffolding tasks to suit different learners by having a solution available to you. So we just want you to be able to adapt them in a variety of ways, rather than there just being, yes, there's a response and yes, you're right or wrong. There's more you can do with them. Thanks, Mel. Cool. So to answer the big question, how do you access these solutions on Nelson MindTap? So first thing you got to do is you've got to purchase a class set of the second edition textbook. You're then going to sign in and create your Nelson digital account. So some of you probably already have that, so you don't need to sign up again if you already have one, but otherwise you can sign up for new. You need to request access to the series. And if you let your learning consultant know as well, they might be able to expedite the process to get those teacher resources to you a lot faster. You can then set up your course in Nelson MindTap. You can add your students and they can use their code, so you can have a nice little cohesive group. And then you can explore the information. So I've just put a screenshot in here. So when you go into Nelson MindTap, you'll have a teachers section and a student section. This is an example of what I think is in the teacher section. So you can see the information that you actually get. So you get a PDF version of the chapter should you want to use it. All of the web links that we reference in the book, wouldn't it be nice if we could just, push a button on the actual page, but they're all listed there for you. So we tried to be really clear this time in our Gaining Insights by referring you. So if we say, go to this news article or go to this website, we've tried to give you more descriptions in there. So, you can plug it into a search engine and find that information a lot more, more quickly. But there is a link there, which as well. The tools and templates include the analytical tool designs that you can have as well. The chapter summaries still exist. So we do have summary pages of, I think they probably range from 20 to 30 points about the key themes that occur within that chapter. That might be a good resource to use for a formative quiz within your class, and of course the solutions. So you get access to all of these things. And I love all the questions coming through. I cannot see them fast enough, but we'll come back to them. No, Mel, perfect. Next slide is great. And finally, the other thing, and this is sitting in the teacher section of Nelson MindTap, is that we have designed teaching plans based on the content in the textbook and its application to the subject matter of the syllabus. So you can see an example here for Unit 4, Topic 2 for Chapter 9 and 10. You can see the unit objective, the subject matter, and then we've mapped out for you what Gaining Insights and what questions relate to that particular subject matter. So again, if you wanted to do a self-audit or you want to map, or you're like, I don't need to focus on that cognition much, I'm running out of time, but I need to focus on these ones, this is a really great reference point for you to go through and go, okay, us as authors have determined that what activities we've created for that Gaining Insight best to match that subject matter. But again, you can present them however you like. But yeah, we've got those alignments as well. That is also for Book 1 and Book 2. So they can be really useful for a new teacher that's very new to the subject that needs a bit of guidance. But those of you on the call that I know are extremely experienced, again, it just might be a really good mapping resource that you have handy when you need something quick to look at. So that's all from me, and I know there's a million questions. I'm going to hand over to David, though, who's from Cengage, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about how to get your hands on these books in the coming months. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Mel. And yes, we will be getting to all these questions. I'm reading some really great ones in the chat, so thanks for posting those. We'll have a little Q&A session quite soon, so if you have any questions on your mind that haven't been answered yet, feel free to put those in and we'll get to them quite quickly. So what you can see in front of you here is essentially our availability. We're obviously fully published in Units 1 and 2. It's live right now on Nelson MindTap, and I can see some familiar names in there, so I know some of you are enjoying that already. The process of that is very straightforward. Mel went over that before. All you got to do is create a Nelson Digital account, request your access, and that comes through to us for approval. If you've purchased a class set, we can approve that, and then you get access to all the goodies. So for attending this session, you'll be receiving a gratis copy of the physical book. That book on its own isn't going to do anything. It'll serve as a physical resource. You can activate the code and have a look at the like the student ebook version. But if you want all the goodies, all the solutions, all those great resources that we've looked at already, you will need to have a class set adoption purchase for that one, and we can approve your access. So in terms of availability, 1 and 2 is ready right now. Units 3 and 4 is coming out very soon in September. And we've got the page proofs. If you'd like a digital link to that, we can provide that to you. So my contact details, as well as Amanda's contact details, are going to be on the next slide. Yep, just here. So if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to request those, we will be able to send you copies of those pretty much straight away. We've got them accessed right now. In terms of meetings and appointments and things like that, if you'd like to spend a bit more time with us, we can certainly have a step through Nelson MindTap. We've got a couple of physical page proofs that we can have a flick through in person. So we're certainly happy to attend appointments. If you're in a regional area, we can do that via Teams as well. So if you'd like to see a little bit more, and if you've got some particular questions, you can sit through with us and we can go through that together. So that pretty much wraps it up for us.